All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're unpacking one of the biggest topics on the planet: the past, the present, and, most importantly, the future of artificial intelligence.
Ernest Hemingway wrote this line almost 100 years ago, but it is the perfect way to describe the story of AI. For decades, it was just kind of simmering in research labs. And then, boom! Seemingly overnight, it was absolutely everywhere.
I mean, in 2023, you just couldn't miss it. AI wasn't hiding in some science journal anymore. It was on the cover of Time, The Economist, even Cosmopolitan. So the big question is, why now? What happened to kick off this revolution?
To really get the suddenly, we have to rewind and look at the gradually. This huge explosion of AI didn't just come out of nowhere. It was built on decades of really foundational work. The journey really kicks off way back in 1950 with Alan Turing asking that simple, profound question: can machines think? A few years later, the field gets its name. But it was these big public moments, like when IBM's Deep Blue beat the world's best chess player, that really showed everyone, wow, machines can actually outthink us at some incredibly complex stuff.
But here's the thing. For years, all this amazing AI was locked away in these giant, super expensive supercomputers. The real game changer was when tools like ChatGPT were released to the public. All of a sudden, that incredible power wasn't just for scientists anymore. It was in our hands, on our phones and laptops.
And that brings us right to that suddenly moment. This recent AI explosion, it wasn't magic. It was really the result of three key ingredients that finally, after all these years, came together at the exact same time. So let's break down these three pillars. You've got advanced algorithms, massive amounts of data, and just unbelievable computing power. You can think of them as the brains, the fuel, and the engine of the entire AI revolution. So first up, you need the brains. We develop these much smarter algorithms, especially with breakthroughs in what's called deep learning, which is kind of inspired by the neural networks in our own brains. These are the complex instructions that let machines learn and spot patterns on a massive scale. Next, every brain needs something to learn from. It needs fuel. And for AI, that fuel is data. The internet age basically created an ocean of it. All the text, all the images, all the code. It became this giant global library for these AI systems to study. Without that data, the AI would be a brain without any books to read. And finally, you need an engine powerful enough to actually process all that fuel. Recent breakthroughs in computer chips and cloud computing gave us the raw horsepower to run these super complex algorithms on all that data. And we're talking about computing power on an unimaginable scale. So, with the brains, the fuel, and the engine all firing on all cylinders, AI has officially left the building. It's out of the lab, and it's actively reshaping our world and our lives. I mean, just look at the numbers. This chart shows how fast small and medium-sized businesses are jumping on board. It went from under 20% in 2020 to almost half of them in 2024. That's not just a trend, that's a rocket ship. And it's not slowing down. Looking ahead to 2025, a whopping 75% of these businesses are planning to adopt AI. So it's not a question of if anymore. It's a question of when and how.
And you can feel this impact everywhere. In healthcare, it's helping doctors spot diseases earlier. In business, it's personalizing the ads you see. Even your daily commute, that navigation app finding you the fastest route in real time, yep, that's AI.
So where does this all go from here? Well, to really get a handle on the future of AI, it helps to understand the different levels that everyone's working toward. Generally, people break down AI's capabilities into these three stages. The best way to think about it is like a ladder. We're on the first rung right now, we're aiming for the second, and we're kind of just dreaming about the third. Okay, so right now, every single AI you've ever used is what we call narrow AI. It might be incredibly good at what it does, like an AI that can spot cancer on a scan, but it's a specialist. That same AI can't drive a car, and it can't write a song. It's trained to do one thing, and one thing only. Now, the next rung up that ladder, and this is kind of the holy grail for a lot of researchers, is general AI, or AGI. This would be a system that has the same kind of flexible, general intelligence that humans do. It could learn, reason, and adapt to pretty much any task. And let me be super clear, this does not exist yet. We're not there. But of course, as this unbelievably powerful technology gets woven into the fabric of our society, it brings with it incredible promise, but also some really serious challenges that we're all going to have to navigate very, very carefully. Of course, one of the biggest conversations is about jobs. We saw this get very real during the Hollywood strikes, with writers and actors worried about AI writing scripts. But the conversation is starting to shift from AI replacing us to AI augmenting us, basically becoming a tool that handles the boring stuff so we can focus on more creative, strategic work.
And as we build this future, we're staring down some huge questions. If an AI learns from the internet, how do we stop it from learning all the biases and junk out there too? How do we keep our data safe? And as this tech gets more and more important, how do we make sure its benefits are shared by everyone and not just a few? These are the big puzzles we have to solve.
In the end, it feels a lot like we're standing exactly where Alan Turing predicted we'd be more than 70 years ago. We're seeing a foretaste of what's to come, but we're still just in the shadow of what AI is going to be. The future isn't written yet, and that leaves us with the biggest question of all. What kind of future do we want to build with this?